Today we're going to talk about a little something that's keeping a whole bunch of folks stuck. And today we're going to talk about boredom. See, when you start something new, whether it's a new diet, a new workout routine, a new job, there's a certain sense of excitement because it's new, it's exciting. That newness, that momentum, it's addictive. But then something happens. It gets repetitive. It gets old. You just start going through the motions, and then ultimately you quit. That job you were so excited about, that new diet that you couldn't wait to start, the new workout routine that was so exciting at first, you keep on doing it and it loses all its luster, and then you quit. Most people can't work through boredom. They just stop. When things get boring, they just stop. But what you don't realize is boredom is actually the test. And the folks that win, the folks that succeed at the highest level, they understand that boredom is just a test. And they're the ones that actually push past that feeling of boredom and keep going despite the fact that it's monotonous and repetitive. They keep doing the same things over and over and over, and they pass that test. Because whenever you push past the boredom, that's when your results actually start showing up. Now let's be real here. Like, repetition feels boring. Repetition sucks. And it sucks because our brains are wired to seek novelty. Our brains love new experiences, new foods, new workout routines, new relationships, new places, new hobbies. And that's why people jump from thing to thing to thing without ever really mastering one thing. Because they can't go past the feeling of boredom and monotony. But the people that ultimately succeed, your entertainers, your athletes, your musicians, anyone that's really good at anything, they succeed because they're not chasing the excitement. They are just chasing progress. They are trying to progress. They are trying to get further. And in order to get further, you come up against that wall called boredom, where most people stop and turn around and quit. The super successful people keep going through the boredom. So think about it like this. When you eat the same meals every day, it gets old. Now, if you've never had a workout routine or a nutrition plan, then this may not make sense to you. But for those of you that do, you know that eating chicken and rice every day gets boring. But you keep on eating that chicken and rice, and what happens? After months, your entire body composition transforms. You look completely different. And that's why you keep on eating the same shit over and over, because your ultimate goal is to get that body that you desire with the six pack and the veins popping and all that. And the payoff of working through the monotony of eating the same shit over and over is the body that you want. Same thing. Whenever you go to the gym and you do the same workout routine, working out the same muscles, it has a tendency to get massively boring. But the payoff is at the end when you continue showing up, when you continue doing the workouts. Again, the body that you want is on the other side of that monotony, is on the other side of that boredom. And the other thing is, whenever you create content, whenever you put things on the internet and nothing is happening for, weeks at a time, months at a time, you're simply building the foundation. And if you continue going past the point of boredom or past the moment when you thought something would happen, you're creating this foundation that's going to have a payoff at the end. And this is true for most things in life. You have to work past the monotony. You have to work past the boredom and the feeling tired of doing the same thing over and over, because the payoff is in the future. We've spoken about it before, how everybody wants the instant gratification. They want the results now from the work that they just put in 2 days ago, and it doesn't work like that. You got to put the work in for a long time with no reward whatsoever. It's going to get boring as shit, and then you keep on going past the boredom, and very few people make it past the boredom. Very few people make it past the monotony stage, and so when you get to the other side, it's a payoff that most people don't get to see because they quit and they go and jump and do something else. The pattern is the same with pretty much every area in life. If you stay consistent long enough, then the rewards will ultimately come. But here's the problem. Most people won't last long enough to see the results. Here's what the average person does. They start something new and they're excited and they're motivated and they're full of energy. And then it gets boring. The initial excitement wears off and it just starts to feel repetitive. And then they get distracted and something else comes along to replace that thing that they're now bored with. And so then they jump ship to go start doing that thing because that seems better or more exciting, when in actuality, it's just new. And so then they quit the other thing to go do this new thing. And then when that new thing gets bored, they go to the other new thing. And it's just this cycle of start something, get real excited, get bored, get tired of it, find something new, get excited, jump from this thing to that thing. And that's what we do for our entire lives. But now, let's take a look and see what successful people do. Now, let's take a look and see how successful people go through this same cycle. Successful people start something new, and just like everybody else, they're excited. They're jazzed to be starting this new thing, and then it gets boring. The excitement wears off. But successful people know that this is part of the process, so it doesn't faze them at all. They continue doing the work that they know that they need to do to progress them to where they're trying to go. And this is why most successful people are disciplined. And they use the discipline to push them through the boring stage, because at the boring stage, you are not going to feel motivated to do the things that you have to do. And that's why you have to set up a system of disciplines to do the things that you don't feel like doing. After they continue pushing through, they get to see the results because they stuck with it longer than anyone else. And the only difference between these two groups of people, the people that hop to new thing to new thing to new thing, and successful people, the only difference is that successful people push through the boredom. They push through the monotony. They push through the part of the phase that sucks, that's boring, that's not fun. They push through that, and then they reap the rewards from that. So let me break this down in some real world examples. We all know the two greatest basketball players of all time. Now that's a very subjective take. I'm not really a huge basketball fan, so don't come after me. But anyway, we're familiar with Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, right? And now even Steph Curry. They do the same drills over and over and over, thousands of times. You don't think that doing the same bounce pass gets old. You don't think that doing the same chest pass gets old, and yet they do it or did it thousands of times. The basics. It's not exciting, it's not fun, but that's what built the foundation of their successes. Now, Kobe Bryant was famous for starting practice at 4 a.m. Now, I'm sure that he liked to sleep in like anybody else, but he knew what it took to become great. And so he woke up early and got to practice every day, 4 a.m., while everyone else was still sleeping. And that's why he's considered one of the greats and others aren't. He understood that repetition leads to greatness. And again, repetition, doing the same thing over and over and over. Repetition gets boring, gets monotonous, but you have to keep going through it if you're chasing greatness, if you're chasing success, if you're chasing the best version of yourself. This is a necessity. You have to continue going through the boredom, through the monotony. Another example that I looked up was J.K. Rowling. Now, everyone is familiar with the Harry Potter books. Some people may be familiar with her story, other people may not. But if you aren't, before she was who she is, like the famous author, before Harry Potter was, she was writing and rewriting and rewriting and rewriting and rewriting the chapters of the book that would become the Harry Potter series. Now, if you've ever written the same thing over and over and rewrote the same thing over and over and refined and kept on doing it, I am sure that would get supremely boring. But she kept doing it. And now she's a billionaire based off of the Harry Potter books. But she was doing the work that most people refuse to do. Refining and continuing and going through the wall of boredom and continuing to grow to get it right. And she got a ton of rejections. Most people would quit after a few rejections. She got dozens of rejections and just kept going. There's something to say about resilience, something to say about working through the boredom and the monotony and remaining resilient. The payoff will come. You just have to keep going. Now, so the big question is, how do you make sure that boredom doesn't stop you? Well, number one, the first thing you need to do is you need to redefine it. And what do I mean by redefine boredom? So you have to understand that if you want to achieve something great, something that you haven't achieved before, if you want to grow into the best version of yourself and you come across boredom, you need to understand that's the test. That's part of it. If you ever try to achieve something great, you're going to come to the wall of boredom, and that is your test. You've got to make it past the boredom test. You have to keep doing the thing even though you don't feel like doing the thing, even though you're tired of doing the thing. You've been doing the thing for so long and you don't see anything is happening. Keep doing the thing past the feeling of boredom. Stop seeing it as a bad sign. Stop seeing it as a bad thing. Understand, if you start feeling bored after doing the same thing over and over and over, you're on the right track. Everybody's had to experience it. It's part of the process. Number two is you need to focus on the bigger picture. What are you doing this for? What are you trying to accomplish? The time is going to pass anyway. If you quit, you're going to start at the bottom of some other activity or some other goal you're trying to accomplish. But if you can just make it past the boredom phase of it, you're going to be one step closer in this thing that you're trying to do now. The other thing is you need to commit to the process and not the feeling that you feel. Understand that this is a process. Anything that you want, anything that you want to grow into or become, there is a process. And along that process is boredom. And you got to work through that process. It's just part of it. So commit to the process. Understand motivation is not going to last. That's when you become disciplined to do what you need to do regardless of how you feel. Another thing that you need to do is you need to track your progress. Look back and look and see where you were 3 months ago. Sometimes nothing has happened around you, but understand you're in a much different place than you were 3 months ago. Your mindset's different. You're doing different activities. You're understanding now, hey, this is just part of the process. 3 months ago, I would have quit, but I kept on going. I met boredom and I'm working my way through it. You're becoming a different person. You're becoming a stronger person. You're becoming the person that can accomplish the things that you want to accomplish. And that says something. You got to keep going. You're laying the foundation for what is to come. But if you don't pass the boredom test, you're just going to go back to doing something new. And so instead of starting at level 4 on this thing, you're going to have to start back at level 1 on something new. So keep going past the boredom test. Look, if you only try to build things when you feel like doing it, you're never going to get anywhere because you're never going to feel like doing it 100% of the time. The difference between the people who get what they want out of life and those that don't is that one group pushed past the feeling of boredom. They kept going when they didn't want to do it anymore, when it was no longer fun. They kept going because that was what they wanted to accomplish. Understand, anything that you want to accomplish, you're going to run into the boredom wall. You're going to get bored and you're going to get tired of it. But if it's important to you, keep on going. Do not quit. The boredom part is part of the process. The part where you're working hard and you're not seeing any results is part of the process. Understand that going into it. Be so passionate about something that you decide, no matter what happens, I'm going to accomplish this thing. And understand going into it the process that I have to go through, at some point, I'm going to get tired of doing this thing. If you really want to do that thing, then keep on going. Your success is going to be inevitable. It's going to come. If you're doing things that you are passionate about, that you thoroughly enjoy, that set your soul on fire, and you're doing the right things, you're doing it with integrity, you're going to be successful. Just don't quit. So you have to become that person who's going to keep going despite the fact that it's getting old and it's getting boring and it's getting monotonous. Those are the successful people. You can continue living less than your potential if you want. Most people do. Most people have these grand ambitions and they start and they hit that boredom wall and they quit. They say, oh, this just isn't for me. Don't be that person. If you have grand ambitions and grand ideals of who you want to be, you have to keep going past the boredom test. That's all I got. The choice is yours. You can stay where you're at. You can keep jumping from thing to thing to thing, or you can decide, this is who I want to be, this is what I want to accomplish, and start going. And then when you get to the boredom phase, which is going to come, when you get to the boredom phase, keep going, no matter how it feels. Because what you're going to do is you're going to get a second wind, and then you're going to be on the other side of that boring phase. Which most people have never been on the other side of the boring phase, because most people quit when it gets boring or it gets monotonous or it gets seemingly difficult. But you can do it. These are all just tests to see how bad you really want what you say you want. Okay? So keep going. Don't quit. You can have, you can be, and you can do whatever you want to in this world. But understand it comes with a cost. And one of those costs is working through the boredom stage. All right, that's it. That's all I got. Hope you have a great day. See you on the next one.